Within SolidWorks, we can use all the power of Microsoft Excel to drive our parts and various configurations of the same part. To get started, we need a base part that we're going to drive. Let's go ahead and get started with 16.3-1. It's just a simple block with a hole in the center. We're then going to link the values to drive the size within a design table. To get started, let's go ahead and take a look at the sketch that underlies this part and open up sketch 1, take a look, and you can see we've got a couple of values in here. We've got 5 inches wide, 4 inches tall, 3-inch hole in there with a 1/4 inch radius, and those are the values we're going to be overriding and using within the design table. Let's exit out of that and come up here to Insert, Tables, Design Table, and use the Auto Create function, which is great. Click on OK, and what it does now is it actually asks us which of the values do we want to bring into the table to be driven. So I need to choose at least one, but you can choose all of them, or any combination of the items you'd like to use in the table. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold down Shift, pick the last one, and bring all those into the table. Click OK, and there's my design table. Notice it puts a default configuration here, and it also gives us those values that we looked at from the sketch in the table. Now, if I want a new configuration, go ahead and click on New and fill out the values. Let's use 0.5. Let's type in 8 by 5 and make a hole a little bit smaller. We'll type in 2, and for our thickness, we'll put in 2 as well. As soon as you're happy with that, click anywhere else outside of the table, and it should say we've got a brand new configuration, which it does. Click on OK. Now, if I come back to the Feature Manager, if I go over 2 tabs to the Configuration Manager, you can see if I double-click on the new configuration, the part changes over, and we have a completely different looking part based upon the same input values. It's really the same style of part, it's just different size. I can flip back to the original, rebuild it, and there's my original part. So I've just created a brand new configuration of the same part with just different input values. Now, one thing I want to do is, notice when we created the table, those variables, we didn't really know what they mean. What is D1 at sketch 1? What does that mean? What I'd like to do is actually go back and rename those values to something that makes a little bit more sense. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and open up 16.3-2, which you already have open, and there it is. And now what I'm going to do is exactly the same thing, but before I start the table, I'm going to rename the features. So starting off with feature number 1, Boss Extrude 1, let's go ahead and click on this twice and type in my boss, for instance. But really, you can name this anything you wanted, and I would recommend naming it something that makes a lot of sense in your design. Now, directly below my boss is sketch 1. Well, I can rename that as well. So I'm going to call it the boss sketch. Okay. And now if I want to edit that sketch, go ahead and right click on it, edit sketch. These values now, if you click on one of them, notice it says D2 at boss sketch. So it actually already used that new sketch name in my variable, but I still don't know what D2 is. So go ahead and override it. Let's call this thing length. Great. Click OK. How about this one over here? D3, what's that? Let's change it to maybe width or W, or it doesn't really matter. Whatever the variable you want to use is just fine. Come down here, how about this one? What is D4? I don't know. But how about hole? Sure, makes sense. And then maybe up here, maybe the radius. Let's just give it an R. Simple sketch names make a lot more sense. Click OK. Now we have all those updated with relevant names. Now I'm ready to go back and start that design table. So exit out of the sketch. Exactly the same thing. Let's go up here to Insert, Tables, Design Table, Auto Create, bring all these variables in, click OK. There's my new configuration. These make a lot more sense now. Now if I know, hey, I want to change the radius, I'm going to change R, or the length or the width. Makes more sense. Again, let's go create new. Type in 0.5, 8, 5, make a small hole 2, and over here we'll make a thickness of 2 again. Now anytime you want a new row, just go ahead and fill it all out, or you can even use some Excel commands like selecting the whole thing, bringing it down and hitting Control D for down, which is fill down, or you can come up here to the screen and click on fill down. Notice the top of my screen up here is Excel. It's Microsoft Excel. The entire ribbon changed, and now I'm actually working within Excel. I have all the power of Excel. I can use functions like concatenate or add cells together. In fact, you can add graphs and other things if you wanted to in the Excel table as well. So a lot of power. The other thing I can do is add new configurations. Notice instead of just new and new, you can't have the same variable twice or the same name twice. So this one's got to be maybe new 2. And if I wanted to do a fill down, I could say select all those things, come up here to fill down, and this one I could call new 3. Then you can change some of the values, but not all of them. In this case here, maybe I wanted only a 1-inch thick version. Or How about if I make the hole in this version much bigger? What if I made this thing like 12 inches? Then I get some weird things that might be happening. So let's take a look what's going to happen there. Go ahead and click OK. It creates these values. Here's our new configurations. So new, 2, and 3. Click OK. And now if I go over here to my configuration manager, click on new. It's the same one we looked at before. Click on new 2. The variables didn't change, so it's exactly the same. Click on new 3. Wow, what happened there? Well, what happened is we made the circle much bigger than the rectangle. So now that is in the outside of the shape and the same part, but now changed into a different shape because I'm changing those values. And because of those things changed, the part looks differently. So you can do a lot of neat things with the design tables, and these parts can be later used to do something else. Again, the configurations are all here. You can use them in your design. You can change things around. And if you want to go back and make changes, it's easy, right? Notice new and new 2 are the same. We made an error. Let's go back and change it. Let's go back to Tables, Design Table, right-click on it and say Edit Table. Again, that opens up the table, and there it is. Configurations, we can click on OK. And notice new and new 2, we didn't change anything. So go in here and change the thickness of new 2 to maybe 4 inches thick. And then go ahead and click anywhere outside. And now you can see my part automatically updates. So come back to the default configuration. And let's not show that again. Rebuild it. Go to the new configuration. Go to the new 2 configuration and go to the new 3 configuration. So I can quickly flip between all 3 of those. It's really powerful. I also wanted to point out before we close is that in Design Table, if I right click and say Edit Table, that's one option, but I can also say Edit Table in New Window, and it'll actually open up a full version of Microsoft Excel so I can edit the table there. And when I'm done with it, go ahead and click Exit, and it'll take you right back to the part. Using Excel and Design Tables allows you to create a collection of similar parts. This comes in very handy if you're working with something like a bolt. They all look about the same, however they have different sizes and lengths. The features are created the same with different values. If you have a design that's similar to a bolt example, Design Tables would be a great choice.